Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Eternal Dawn. The bridge was made of smooth crystal that glowed with soft blue light. He had 4 arms like all his people, and his skin was pale purple. For 3,000 years, his empire had ruled this part of space. They controlled 200 star systems, and no one dared to fight them. The admiral was looking at the star maps when his sensor officer called out, "Sir, we have something strange on the edge of our space." Vextar walked over to the sensor station. His officer, a young female named Kira, was staring at her screen with wide eyes. "What is it?" the admiral asked. "A ship just came out of hyperspace, sir, but it's not like anything in our records. It's not one of ours, and it's not from any of the races we know." The admiral looked at the screen. The ship was dark and angular, with sharp edges that looked dangerous. It was much smaller than his ships, but something about it made him feel uneasy. "Show me the full scan." The image grew larger on the main screen. The ship was black metal with strange markings on its hull. It had weapons that looked different from anything the Empire used. The design was simple but looked deadly. Could it be one of the rebel groups? Vextar asked. "No, sir, the technology is completely unknown. The metal is different. The energy readings are strange. This ship is from somewhere else." Far away on the mysterious ship, Captain Jake Morrison stood on his own bridge. His ship was called the UCS Defiance, and it was the last warship of the human race. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and green eyes. He had been fighting for his people for 20 years. "Lisa, what do you see on sensors?" he asked his tactical officer, Lieutenant. Commander Lisa Brooks was a woman with short black hair and quick hands. She worked fast at her control station. "3 Imperial patrol ships are moving toward us, Captain. They're still far away, but they're coming fast." Jake nodded. He had expected this. The Empire thought all humans were dead. They had tried to kill every human in the galaxy 300 years ago. Most humans had died, but some had escaped and hidden in the dark places between stars. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked. 20 minutes, sir." Jake turned to his crew. There were only 200 humans left alive on this ship. They were the last of their kind, and they had come back to their old home to fight. "All hands, prepare for battle. This is what we train for." The 3 Imperial patrol ships moved through space like silver sharks. Their captain was Commander Zolt, a proud warrior who had never lost a fight. He looked at the strange ship on his screen and smiled. "Just one ship," he said to his crew. "This will be easy," his weapons officer spoke up. "Sir, should we try to talk to them first?" "No," Zolt said. "Unknown ships in Imperial space are destroyed. That is the law." Back on the Defiance, Jake watched the enemy ships get closer. His chief engineer, Danny Cole, spoke from the engine room through the communication system. "Captain, all systems are ready. The new weapons are charged and waiting." "Good work, Danny." Jake had known Danny for 15 years. The engineer was a genius who had helped design their new weapons. These weapons used technology that the Empire had never seen before. Lisa looked up from her station. "Captain, they're trying to contact us. Put them through." The main screen showed Commander Zolt's face. He looked angry and proud. "Unknown vessel, you are in Imperial space without permission. Surrender now or be destroyed." Jake stared back at the alien commander. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human warship Defiance." "We do not surrender." Zolt's eyes went wide. "Impossible. The humans are extinct. We made sure of that." "You were wrong," Jake said calmly, "and now we're back." Jake cut the communication and turned to Lisa. "Fire when ready." The Defiance moved forward like a hunting wolf, its weapons charged with bright energy. The Imperial ships fired first, sending beams of blue light through space. But the human ship moved too fast, dodging the attacks with incredible speed. Then the Defiance fired back. Its weapons were different. Instead of energy beams, it shot streams of superhot plasma that burned through space like liquid fire. The first Imperial ship tried to raise its shields, but the human weapons cut through them like they were made of paper. "Impossible!" Zolt shouted as his ship's shields failed. Nothing can cut through our shields. The plasma hit his ship and burned through the hull. Explosions rocked the vessel as systems failed. Within seconds, the proud Imperial patrol ship was a burning wreck floating in space. The other two Imperial ships tried to run, but the Defiance was faster. It chased them down one by one, its weapons destroying them with terrible efficiency. In less than 10 minutes, all three Imperial ships were gone. On the Defiance, Jake's crew cheered. They had won their first battle against the Empire. But Jake did not smile. This was just the beginning. "Lisa, send a message to all Imperial forces in this sector," he ordered. "What should the message say, Captain?" Jake thought for a moment. "Tell them that humanity has returned. Tell them that we remember what they did to us. And tell them that we will not stop until we have our revenge." News of the battle spread through Imperial space like wildfire. The humans were not extinct. They were back, and they were angry. Fear began to spread through the Empire for the first time in centuries. On the Imperial capital world, Emperor Kythara received the news. In his crystal palace, his four hands shook as he read the report. The humans had destroyed 3 of his ships with just one vessel. The ancient texts spoke of human warriors, but he had thought they were just stories. "Send word to all fleets," he commanded his generals. "The humans have returned. We must stop them before they destroy everything we have built." But deep in space, the Defiance continued its journey through Imperial territory. Jake Morrison and his crew had waited 300 years for this moment. They would not be stopped easily. The war had begun again. Emperor Kythara sat in his great throne room, reading the reports that kept coming in. His palace was made of living crystal that grew from the ground like a tree. The crystal walls showed images of his vast empire, but today those images brought him no comfort. The report in his hands told him things he did not want to believe. One human ship had destroyed 3 of his patrol vessels. The weapons the humans used were completely unknown. Their ship moved faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. "This cannot be true," he said to his advisor, General Mortok. "The humans were wiped out long ago. I have seen the records myself." General Mortok was an old soldier with scars from many battles. "The reports are confirmed, my Emperor. 3 different sensor stations recorded the battle. The human ship destroyed our vessels in minutes." The Emperor's 4 hands gripped the arms of his throne. But the humans were primitive. They had no real technology. How could they build such a ship? "Perhaps they learned from us, my Emperor. Perhaps they took our technology and made it better." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Brooks was studying the battle recordings. She sat in her small quarters, looking at the data on her personal computer. The fight had gone exactly as they had planned. Lisa was 32 years old and had been training for this mission since she was a child. Like all humans on the ship, she had been born in the hidden colonies where the survivors had rebuilt their civilization. She had never seen Earth, but she had heard stories of the beautiful blue world that had once been their home. "Computer, show me the Imperial ship designs," she said. The computer showed her detailed images of the enemy vessels. They were large and powerful, but they were also old-fashioned. The Empire had not changed their ship designs in hundreds of years. They had become lazy and too sure of themselves, Lisa smiled. This was exactly what the human planners had hoped. For while the Empire had stayed the same, humanity had been working and learning. They had studied every piece of Imperial technology they could find. They had improved it and made it better. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Captain Jake Morrison entered her quarters. He looked tired but determined. "How are you feeling about the battle?" he asked. "Good, sir. The enemy ships performed exactly as we expected. Their shields were weak against our plasma weapons. Their speed was slow compared to our engines," Jake nodded. "And their tactics? Basic, sir. They attacked head-on with no plan. They expected us to run or surrender. They had no idea how to fight someone who actually fought back." Jake sat down across from her. "The Empire has been the strongest power in this part of space for so long that they forgot how to really fight. They've been bullying weaker races for centuries. Now they face someone who won't back down. On the Imperial capital world, the High Council was meeting in emergency session. The council chamber was huge, with seats for representatives from all the major worlds of the Empire. Today, those seats were filled with worried faces. Fleet Admiral Zexquin stood at the center of the chamber, giving his report. He was a tall, proud alien with silver skin and 6 arms. He had commanded Imperial fleets for 200 years and had never lost a battle. "The human ship has struck again," he announced. "They attacked a supply station in the Gamma sector. 20 ships were destroyed, including 2 heavy cruisers." The council members gasped. Heavy cruisers were some of the most powerful ships in the Imperial fleet. How could one enemy vessel destroy so many ships? "How is this possible?" asked Councillor Vexra, a female representative from the mining worlds. "Our ships are the best." In the galaxy, Admiral Zexquin's expression was grim. "The humans are using new tactics. They hit fast and then disappear. They use the asteroids and gas clouds to hide from our sensors. They strike where we are weakest and vanish before we can respond." "Then we must set a trap," said Councillor Drakeman, a military representative. "We know they will strike again. We can be ready for them." "I have already thought of that," the Admiral replied. "I am taking 50 ships to hunt down this human vessel. We will spread out across 3 star systems and catch them when they appear." Back on the Defiance, Chief Engineer Danny Cole was working in the engine room. The room was hot and full of the humming sound of powerful machines. Danny was a short man with gray hair and quick hands. He had been working on engines since he was 12 years old. "How are the new systems holding up?" asked his assistant engineer Kate Miller. "Better than I hoped," Danny replied, checking the readings on his control panel. "The hybrid engines are working perfectly. We can go faster than any Imperial ship and use less fuel doing it." The Defiance used a combination of human and Imperial technology. The humans had taken the best parts of both and put them together to create something new. The ship's engines could jump to hyperspace faster than anything the Empire had. Its weapons could punch through the strongest shields. "What about the stealth system?" Kate asked. Danny grinned. "That's our secret weapon. The Empire has been using the same sensor technology for centuries. Our stealth system makes us invisible to their old scanners." In her quarters, Communications Officer Rachel Stone was listening to Imperial radio transmissions. She was a young woman with red hair and sharp ears. Her job was to intercept enemy messages and learn what the Empire was planning. "Captain Morrison to the bridge," she heard over the ship's communication system. Rachel gathered her reports and headed to the bridge. When she arrived, she found the senior officers gathered around the main display screen. "What do you have for us, Rachel?" Captain Morrison asked. "The Empire is scared, sir. Their communications are full of panic. They're calling in ships from all over their territory. Admiral Zexquin is leading a task force of 50 ships to hunt us down." "50 ships?" Lieutenant Commander Brooks whistled. "That's more than we've ever faced at once." Captain Morrison studied the star map. "Where are they setting up their trap?" "The Crimson Nebula, sir. They think we'll hide there because of all the gas and dust. They're surrounding it with ships." Morrison smiled. "Then that's exactly where we'll go, but not to hide. We'll go there to fight." The other officers looked at him with surprise. Commander Amy Foster, the leader of the ship's Marines, spoke up. "Sir, 50 ships is a lot. Are you sure we can handle that many?" "We're not going to fight all 50 at once," Morrison replied. "We're going to use the nebula against them. The gas and dust will hide us from their sensors. We'll pick them off one by one." Dr. Helen Park, the ship's chief medical officer, was worried. "Captain, what if some of us get hurt?" "I can help wounded people, but I can't bring back the dead." Morrison looked at his crew. These people were his family. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not survive. "We've come too far to stop now. The Empire thinks they can scare us with big numbers, but we're going to show them that humans don't scare easily." The Defiance changed course and headed toward the Crimson Nebula. Behind them, Imperial ships were gathering like storm clouds. The biggest space battle in 300 years was about to begin. Admiral Zexquin watched his ships take their positions. Around the nebula, His trap was perfect. No ship could escape from the circle of Imperial vessels. When the human ship appeared, it would be destroyed quickly, but the Admiral did not know that he was not the hunter. He was the prey. Admiral Zexquin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Stellar Dominion. The ship was 3 times larger than the human vessel, with thick armor and powerful weapons. Around him, his crew worked at their stations, preparing for the hunt. "Status report," the Admiral ordered. His tactical officer, Commander Rixtel, looked up from his display. "All 50 ships are in position around the Crimson Nebula, sir. We have the area completely surrounded. Nothing can escape." The Admiral nodded. The Crimson Nebula was a huge cloud of red gas and dust that stretched across an entire star system. Ships could hide inside it, but they could also get lost. It was the perfect place for a trap. "Any sign of the human ship?" Zexquin asked. "Not yet, sir. But our sensors are watching every possible entrance to the nebula. When they arrive, we'll know." The Admiral walked to the large window that showed the nebula in the distance. It looked like a red storm frozen in space. He had fought many battles in his long career, but something about this one felt different. The humans had already proven they were dangerous. This would not be an easy fight. Inside the nebula, the Defiance moved slowly through the thick gas. Clouds. The ship's hull was dark, making it almost invisible in the red mist. Navigation Officer Pete Chun sat at his controls, carefully guiding the ship through the dangerous area. "How are we doing, Pete?" Captain Morrison asked. Pete was a young man with black hair and steady hands. He had been born on a hidden colony ship and had never seen a real planet. "The nebula is thick, sir. The gas is playing tricks with our sensors, but it's doing the same thing to theirs. We're invisible as long as we stay in the dense areas." "Good. How long until we reach the center?" 2 hours, sir." "But Captain, this place is dangerous. The gas is full of electrical storms. If we get hit by lightning, our systems could fail." Morrison nodded. "We'll have to take that risk." "Lisa, are you ready?" Lieutenant Commander Brooks was studying her tactical display. "Yes, sir." "I've identified 12 Imperial ships that are separated from the main group. If we attack them one at a time, we can destroy them before the others can help." The plan was simple but dangerous. The Defiance would use the nebula's gas and dust to hide from the Imperial sensors. They would attack lone ships, destroy them quickly, and then disappear back into the clouds. It was like being a ghost that could kill on the Imperial ship Infinite. Glory, Captain Vorth was getting bored. His ship had been waiting at the edge of the nebula for 6 hours, and nothing had happened. He was starting to think the humans were not coming. "Sir, I'm getting strange readings from inside the nebula," his sensor officer reported. "What kind of readings?" Vorth asked. "It's hard to tell." "The gas is interfering with our sensors. But I think I saw something moving in there." Vorth looked at the red clouds. "Are you sure?" "Not completely, sir." "Should I report it to Admiral?" "Zexquin? No," Vorth said. "If it's just gas movements, we'll look foolish. Keep watching." Inside the nebula, the Defiance was moving closer to the Infinite Glory. The human ship was like a shark swimming through blood-red water, its weapons were charged and ready to fire. "Target acquired," Lisa reported. "Imperial cruiser, heavy class." "It's alone and not expecting us." "Distance?" Morrison asked. 5,000 kilometers and closing. Chief Engineer Danny Cole's voice came through the communication system. "Captain, I'm reading some engine stress. The electrical storms in this nebula are affecting our systems. How long can we stay in here?" Morrison asked. "Maybe 4 hours, sir. After that, we'll need to get to clear space to repair the damage." Morrison made his decision. "That's enough time. Lisa, fire when ready." The Defiance burst out of the gas cloud like a monster from a nightmare. Its weapons blazed with deadly light, hitting the Infinite Glory before the Imperial ship could react. The enemy's shields flared and died under the assault. "Shields down!" Captain Vorth shouted. "Return fire!" But it was too late. The Defiance's plasma weapons burned through the Infinite Glory's hull like a hot knife through butter. Explosions rocked the Imperial ship as its systems failed one by one. "Abandon ship!" Vorth ordered, but there was no time. The infinite glory exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the nebula like a new star. The Defiance disappeared back into the gas clouds before the other Imperial ships could respond. On the stellar Dominion, Admiral Zexquin stared at his tactical display in shock. "Report," he demanded. "The infinite glory is gone, sir," his tactical officer said. "It was destroyed in less than 2 minutes." "How is that possible? Where did the attack come from?" "From inside the nebula, sir. The human ship was hiding in the gas clouds." Admiral Zexquin felt a chill run down his spine. The humans were hunting his ships from inside the nebula, using the gas and dust to hide their movements. They were not trapped. They were the ones doing the trapping. "Order all ships to close formation," he commanded. "No more lone vessels. We stay together." But the Admiral's orders came too late. The Defiance had already found its next target. The Imperial ship Bright Sword was positioned near a cluster of asteroids, thinking it was safe behind the floating rocks. Commander Amy Foster stood in the Defiance's marine bay, checking her weapons. She was a tall woman with brown hair and muscles like steel. Her 30 Marines were the best fighters humanity had ever produced. "Are we going to board any enemy ships?" asked Sergeant Mike Turner, her second in command. "Maybe," Amy replied. "The captain wants to capture some Imperial officers for information. If we get the chance, we'll take prisoners." The Defiance moved through the asteroid field like a hunting cat. The rocks provided perfect cover, hiding the human ship from Imperial sensors. Pete Chin guided the ship with incredible skill, weaving between asteroids that could crush the hull if they hit. "There," Lisa said, pointing at her tactical display. "The Bright Sword is right where we expected." The Imperial ship was waiting behind a large asteroid, its crew thinking they were safe. They had no idea that death was approaching from the shadows. "Fire!" Morrison ordered. The Defiance's weapons struck the Bright Sword from 3 different angles. The Imperial ship's shields collapsed under the focused attack. Its hull cracked and split open, spilling air and debris into space. This time, the human ship did not disappear immediately. The Defiance moved closer to the dying Imperial vessel, its Marine teams ready to board. "Amy, you're up," Morrison said. Commander Foster and her Marines used special pods to cross the space between the 2 ships. They cut through the Bright Sword's hull and entered the enemy vessel. The Imperial crew was in panic, their ship dying around them. "Surrender and you will not be harmed," Amy announced over the enemy ship's communication system. Most of the Imperial crew gave up without a fight. They had never faced human Marines before and were terrified by their reputation. In 10 minutes, the Bright Sword was under human control. "Captain Morrison, this is Foster. We have prisoners and valuable information. The Imperial computer files are intact." "Good work, Amy. Get what you can and get out. We don't have much time." The Marines quickly copied the Imperial computer files and took 12 prisoners back to the Defiance. Then they left the Bright Sword to die in the asteroid field. Communications officer Rachel Stone was studying the captured Imperial files when she made an important discovery. "Captain, I've found something interesting. The Imperial fleet has a weak point." "What kind of weak point?" Morrison asked. "Their communication system. All their ships are connected to a central command network. If we can jam their communications, they won't be able to coordinate their attacks," Morrison smiled. "Can we do?" "Yes, sir. But we'll need to get close to Admiral Zexquin's flagship. That's where the main communication hub is located." "Then that's our next target," Morrison decided. The Defiance moved deeper into the nebula, preparing for its most dangerous mission yet. Behind them, the Imperial fleet was in chaos. 2 ships had been destroyed, and the Admiral's perfect trap was falling apart. Admiral Zexquin stood on his bridge, trying to understand what was happening. The humans were not fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They struck from the shadows and vanished like ghosts. They used the battlefield itself as a weapon. "Sir, what are your orders?" his tactical officer asked. The Admiral looked at the nebula that had become his enemy's fortress. "We go in after them. All ships enter the nebula. We'll hunt them down." "In their own hiding place?" But as the Imperial ships moved into the gas clouds, they were entering a trap that had been set for them. The humans were waiting, and they were ready to fight. The Crimson Nebula had become a battlefield unlike any in the galaxy's history. Red gas swirled around the Imperial ships as they entered the dangerous cloud, their sensors blind in the thick mist. Admiral Zexquin had made the decision to hunt the humans in their own territory, but now he was beginning to understand his mistake. "Sir, we're losing contact with several ships," his communication officer reported. "The gas is interfering with our signals." The Admiral gripped his command chair as the stellar dominion moved deeper into the nebula. Lightning danced between the gas clouds, and strange electrical storms made their instruments go crazy. This was not a place for large fleets to fight. "How many ships do we still have contact with?" he asked. 23, sir. The others are somewhere in the nebula, but we can't reach them." Far away in the red mist, the Defiance moved like a ghost through the storm. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the Imperial ships spread out as they lost contact with each other. This was exactly what he had hoped for. "Pete, how are our systems holding up?" he asked his navigation officer. Pete Chun was working hard to keep the ship stable in the electrical storms. "The storms are getting worse, sir. But our shielding is holding. The Imperial ships aren't designed for this kind of environment." "Good, Lisa. What targets do you see?" Lieutenant Commander Brooks studied her tactical display. 3 Imperial ships are isolated from the main fleet. They're trying to find each other, but the gas is confusing their sensors. Which one is closest? The cruiser Stormbringer, sir. It's about 2,000 kilometers away and moving in circles, Morrison nodded. "Take us in. Time to show them what happens when you hunt humans." The Stormbringer was lost in the red fog, its crew frightened and confused. Captain Kexivoth had been commanding ships for 50 years, but he had never been in a place like this. The nebula seemed alive, with gas currents that pushed his ship in directions he didn't want to go. "Sir, I'm getting readings on the long-range sensors," his tactical officer said. "Something is moving toward us. Can you identify it?" "No, sir. The readings are too weak. But it's big and it's coming fast." Captain Kexivoth felt fear crawling up his spine. Battle stations. Prepare to fire on anything that comes out of that fog. The Defiance approached the Stormbringer like a predator stalking its prey. The Imperial ship was turning slowly, its weapons pointing in random directions. Its crew had no idea where the attack would come from. "Fire!" Morrison ordered. The human ship's weapons blazed through the red mist, striking the Stormbringer from its blind side. The Imperial ship's shields flared and died under the assault. Its hull cracked and split as plasma fire burned through the thick armor. "Where are they?" Captain Kexivoth shouted. "Return fire." But the Stormbringer's weapons fired into empty space. The Defiance had already moved to a new position, hidden in the swirling gas. The human ship fired again, and this time the Imperial vessel's engines exploded in a ball of fire. "Abandon ship," Kexivoth ordered, but the Stormbringer was already dying. The ship broke apart in the red fog, its pieces scattered by the electrical storms on the stellar dominion. Admiral Zexquin watched another of his ships disappear from the tactical display. The humans were picking off his fleet one by one, and he was powerless to stop them. "Sir, we're receiving a message from the human ship," his communication officer said. "Put it through." Captain Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. He looked calm and determined, not like a man who was outnumbered 20-1. "Admiral Zexquin, I presume," Morrison said. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human warship Defiance." "You are surrounded, human," the Admiral replied. "Surrender now and your crew will be treated well," Morrison laughed. "You still don't understand, do you? We're not the ones who are surrounded. You are. That's impossible. I have 20 ships in this nebula, and I've already destroyed 3 of them. How many more do you want to lose?" The Admiral's face showed his anger. "You cannot defeat the entire Imperial fleet with one ship." "Watch me," Morrison said, and cut the communication. The battle continued for hours, with the Defiance striking at isolated Imperial ships and then vanishing back into the red fog. The human ships seemed to be everywhere at once, attacking from impossible angles and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Chief Engineer Danny Cole was working frantically to keep the ship's systems running. The electrical storms were getting stronger, and the Defiance was taking damage from the constant lightning strikes. "How much longer can we stay in here?" Morrison asked over the communication system. "Maybe 1 more hour, sir," Danny replied. "After that, we'll need to get to clear space or risk losing main power." "Understood. We'll make this hour count." The Defiance found its next target near the center of the nebula. The Imperial battleship Divine Wrath was a massive vessel, 3 times the size of the human ship. Its captain, Admiral Morduck, was one of the Empire's most experienced commanders. "Sir, I'm detecting movement in the gas clouds," his sensor officer reported. "Where? All around us, sir." "The readings are faint, but something is circling our position." Admiral Morduck had heard the reports of the other ships that had been destroyed. He knew the humans were using the nebula to hide their movements. "All weapons, prepare to fire in all directions. When I give the command, light up this entire area." The Divine Wrath's weapons charged with deadly energy. The ship had enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but the humans had faced powerful enemies. "Before they're ready for us," Lisa reported. "The battleship is prepared to fire in all directions." "Then we'll have to be smarter than they are," Morrison replied. "Pete, take us underneath them. Use the gas currents to mask our approach." The Defiance dove down through the nebula, using the natural movement of the gas to hide its approach. The ship moved like a submarine through an ocean of red mist, approaching the Divine Wrath from below. "Now," Morrison ordered. The human ship rose up from the depths of the nebula like a sea monster attacking a ship. Its weapons fired upward, striking the Divine Wrath's unprotected belly. The Imperial battleship's shields held, but they were weakened by the surprise attack. "Return fire." Admiral Morduck shouted. The Divine Wrath's weapons blazed in all directions, turning the surrounding gas into a storm of energy. But the Defiance was already moving, using the confusion to attack from a new angle. The battle between the two ships was fierce and deadly. The Divine Wrath had more weapons and stronger shields, but the Defiance was faster and harder to hit. The human ship darted around the battleship like a fighter attacking a giant, striking at weak points and then disappearing into the fog. "Their shields are down to 50%, Lisa reported. "Keep firing," Morrison ordered. "Don't give them time to recover." The Defiance's plasma weapons burned through the nebula, hitting the Divine Wrath again and again. The Imperial ship's shields flickered and failed. Its hull began to crack under the constant assault. "Sir, we're losing power to the weapons," the Divine Wrath's tactical officer reported. Admiral Morduck felt his ship dying around him. The humans had outfought one of the Empire's most powerful vessels. "Send a message to Admiral Zexquin. Tell him the humans are more dangerous than we thought." The Divine Wrath exploded in a blast that lit up the entire nebula. The shock wave shook the Defiance, but the human ship survived. Another Imperial vessel had been destroyed on the Stellar Dominion. Admiral Zexquin watched his fleet disappear ship by ship. He had started with 50 vessels, and now he had less than 15. The humans had turned his perfect trap into a killing ground. "Sir, what are your orders?" his tactical officer asked. The admiral looked at the swirling red fog that had become his enemy's fortress. He had 2 choices. He could retreat and admit defeat, or he could make one final attack against the human ship. "Signal all remaining ships," he ordered. "We're going to find that human vessel and destroy it, even if it costs us everything." But deep in the nebula, the Defiance was preparing for the final phase of the battle. The Imperial fleet was broken and scattered, but the most dangerous fight was still to come. The battle in the Crimson Nebula was ending, but the war was just beginning. Admiral Zexquin stood on his damaged bridge, looking at the tactical display that showed only 12 Imperial ships remaining. The human vessel had destroyed most of his fleet, and now it was coming for him. "Sir, the human ship is approaching," his tactical officer reported. "They're not hiding anymore. They're coming straight at us." The admiral gripped his command chair. All remaining ships form up on the Stellar Dominion. We'll face them together. But as the Imperial ships tried to group together, they found that their enemy was not alone. The Defiance had friends. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching as 3 rebel ships emerged from the gas clouds. They were vessels that had been captured from the Empire and turned against their former masters. The crews were made up of alien races that had been enslaved by the Empire for centuries. Captain Morrison, this is Commander Thakra of the Rebel. Ship Freedom's Dawn? Came a voice over the communication system. We heard about your fight with the Empire. We came to help. Morrison smiled. The rebels had been hiding in the outer systems, waiting for someone to stand up to the Empire. Now they had their chance. Welcome to the fight, Commander, Morrison replied. Are you ready to take on the Imperial fleet? We have been ready for 300 years, Thakra answered. Today we fight for freedom. The 4 rebel ships moved. Together through the nebula, their weapons charged and ready. The Imperial fleet was still larger, but now the odds were more even. More importantly, the rebels were fighting for something they believed in. Admiral Zexquin watched the approaching ships with growing fear. The humans had done something he thought was impossible. They had united the rebel forces and given them hope. The Empire's greatest weapon had always been fear, but now that fear was breaking down. Sir, we're receiving messages from across the sector, his communication officer reported. Rebel groups are attacking Imperial bases on 12 different worlds. The Admiral felt his heart sink. The human ship had not just won a battle. It had started a revolution on the Imperial capital world. Emperor Kyle was in his private chamber, watching the battle through his crystal screens. The reports coming in from across his empire were getting worse by the hour. Rebel groups were rising up everywhere, inspired by the human victory. My Emperor, his advisor General Mortok said, we must send more fleets to stop the rebellion. With what ships? The Emperor asked. Admiral Zexquin took 50 of our best vessels, and most of them are destroyed. The humans have shown our enemies that we can be beaten. The Emperor's 4 hands trembled as he read the reports. On the mining world of Karas, the slave workers had taken control of the planet. On the agricultural world of Vextara, the farmers had declared independence. The Empire was falling apart. Back in the Crimson Nebula, the final battle was beginning. The 12 remaining Imperial ships formed a defensive circle around Admiral Zexquin's flagship. The 4 rebel vessels approached slowly, their weapons ready. This is Admiral Zexquin to all rebel ships, the Imperial commander broadcast. Surrender now and return to your worlds. The Empire will show mercy to those who stop fighting. Commander Thakra laughed over the communication channel. We tried surrender once, Admiral. You enslaved our people and burned our cities. There will be no mercy for the Empire. The battle erupted in a storm of weapons fire. The Imperial ships fought with desperate courage, but they were outnumbered and outfought. The rebel vessels moved like a pack of wolves, attacking from all sides. The Defiance led the assault, its plasma weapons cutting through Imperial shields like fire through paper. Captain Morrison and his crew fought with the skill of warriors who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Lisa, target their command ship, Morrison ordered. The Stellar Dominion is heavily shielded, sir, she replied. It will take time to break through. Then we'll make time. The human ship dove toward the Imperial flagship, dodging weapons fire and return attacks. The Defiance's hull was scarred by enemy fire, but it kept fighting. Chief Engineer Danny Cole worked frantically to keep the ship's systems running. Danny, I need more power to weapons, Morrison called over the communication system. I'm giving you everything I can, Captain, Danny replied, but we're running on emergency power. One more hit to the engines and we're finished. The Defiance and the Stellar Dominion fought like 2 ancient warriors in single combat. The Imperial ship was larger and more powerful, but the human vessel was faster and more skilled. The battle raged for 20 minutes, with both ships taking terrible damage. Finally, the Defiance found its opening. The Stellar Dominion's shields failed for just a moment, and the human ship's weapons struck home. The Imperial flagship shuddered as explosions rocked its hull. Sir, we're losing power to all systems. Admiral Zexquin S. Tactical Officer reported. The Admiral looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded, and his ship was dying. But he was still an Imperial officer, and he would not surrender? Activate the self-destruct, he ordered. If we're going to die, we'll take the humans with us. But before the Admiral could complete his order, the Stellar Dominion's bridge was filled with smoke and fire. The ship broke apart in a massive explosion that lit up the nebula like a dying star. The remaining Imperial ships, seeing their commander's fate, finally surrendered. The Battle of Crimson Nebula was over, and the rebels had won on the Defiance. Captain Morrison stood on his damaged bridge, looking at the wreckage of the Imperial fleet. His ship was barely functional, and many of his crew were wounded. But they had achieved something that had seemed impossible just hours before. Rachel, send a message to all rebel groups across the Empire. He ordered. Communications Officer Rachel Stone's fingers moved quickly over her controls. What should the message say, sir? Morrison thought for a moment. Tell them that the Empire can be beaten. Tell them that today 12 Imperial ships surrendered to 4 rebel vessels. Tell them that the age of fear is over. The message went out across the galaxy, carried by rebel communication networks and underground groups. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved peoples heard the news and began to hope. The humans had returned, and they had proven that the Empire was not invincible. Dr. Helen Park worked in the medical bay, treating wounded crew members. Many of her people were hurt, but they were alive. More importantly, they had won. How many did we lose? Morrison asked when he visited the medical bay. 12 killed, 37 wounded, Helen replied. But they died fighting for something important. They died so that others could be free, Morrison nodded. Each death was a tragedy, but their sacrifice had not been in vain. The Empire would never be the same again. In the weeks that followed, the rebellion spread across Imperial space like wildfire. The human victory at Crimson Nebula had shown enslaved races that freedom was possible. World after world declared independence from the Empire. The Defiance, repaired and resupplied by rebel forces, continued to fight. But now it was not alone. Other human survivors emerged from hiding, bringing with them ships and weapons that had been hidden for centuries. The human fleet grew stronger with each passing day. Commander Amy Foster led Marine raids on Imperial bases, freeing prisoners and capturing supplies. Her soldiers became legends among the rebel forces, inspiring others to fight with the same courage and determination. Navigation. Officer Pete Chun trained rebel pilots in the tactics that had made the Defiance so successful. Soon, rebel fleets across the galaxy were using human strategies to defeat Imperial forces. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Brooks worked with rebel engineers to improve their weapons and ships. The technology that had given humanity its edge was shared freely with all who fought for freedom. Chief Engineer Danny Cole helped design new ships that combined the best of human and alien technology. The rebel fleet grew stronger and more advanced with each new vessel. Communications. Officer Rachel Stone coordinated the rebel communication networks, ensuring that freedom fighters across the galaxy could share information and coordinate their attacks. Dr. Helen Park established medical centers on liberated worlds, training local doctors and nurses to treat the wounded. Her compassion and skill saved countless lives. Emperor Kyle Thara watched his empire crumble from his crystal palace. World after world was lost to the rebellion. His fleets were defeated in battle after battle. The fear that had held his empire together for 3,000 years was gone. My emperor, General Mortok said, we must negotiate with the rebels. The empire cannot survive this war. The emperor's 4 hands gripped his throne. The empire does not negotiate with slaves. Then the empire will fall? The general replied sadly, and fall it did. Within a year of the Battle of Crimson Nebula, the Zephyrian Empire had collapsed. The enslaved races had won their freedom, and the galaxy was free once again. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking out at the stars. The ship was orbiting Earth, humanity's lost homeworld. The planet was green and Blue and beautiful, just as the stories had said. "Are you ready to go home, Captain?" Lisa asked. Morrison smiled. "We are home, all of us, every free being in the galaxy." The human warship had entered Imperial space alone and afraid. But it had not fought alone. It had fought with the dreams of freedom that lived.